these parts, this planet of ours. Whoa. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Constant Companion Theory at Tridactyls. Woo! Well, I know for one thing, you're probably not watching me on X right now. Looks like I'm about to lose my blue check. What are the pros and cons of losing a blue check on X? Has it served me up to now? Likely, right? It's helped me get the word out, hasn't it? So I'll have to see. It's just a little strange. I guess that was ultimately the goal, wasn't it, for social media anyway, was for them to charge us. It seems that was the ultimate goal. Although they said if it was free, that means we're the product, right? Have you heard that? What are we going to talk about? I know I got something cool to share already. Why not just get right into some sharing? Because I think instead of just looking at my beardedness, why not look at some other things and think about what we're going to be talking about today? I do want to open the show up for anyone out there listening. I know I have some fans out there. You know, we're trying to do the 7 o'clock time slot that Leonard Nimoy used to have for In Search Of. I hope we're capturing that. I don't know what else. What else do people do at 7 p.m. Eastern time on a Sunday? I think we used to watch Disney's Magic Kingdom and whatnot. So I think part of my topic today was, what do the ancients know? Or what did they know? I guess do would be are the ancients alive today? That's one of the big questions people ask me. Are the Tridactyls around today? With the amount of abduction reports we hear about, plenty of them having 3 fingers, they look like the little beings like Earl and Santiago and Sebastian, all those little figures there. So we do have our ad for today. I don't know if you've seen it, so I do want to show it, and we'll just share that screen real quick there. Trying a new system today. We'll see if part of my system is how calm can I be while I'm showing you things. Okay. You are not seeing that, are you? You are. Awesome. And we can see me as well. So this is a groovy little poster, but I think it really sums up a couple of things. One, I have to confess, here we go. Tridactylians are alive today, 100%. Coming from Lloyd Hannanen. Thank you for commenting. Let's go ahead and show Lloyd's comment. I love when people comment. Most of the time, it's pretty interactive and respectful. And we've got some fans out there. So, yeah, of course, there is the ant people. There's the grays. And I have my dog in a snack bag over there. What are you doing? Get out of there. Get out of there. Yep, come here. Interrupting the show. He's eating some snacks there. Thank you, Bentley. That's what you have to do live shows with your dog, right? Okay. So what else? So check this out. As many of you may know, I got into the Chinese graphemes, the Chinese symbol. And it's been really enlightening. Really enlightening. And I think I got into the Chinese because I was tracing the Tridactyls from the petroglyphs. So many of you may know that I actually recognize the beings. I guess at this point, I was kind of shocked by it, and now I'm kind of past the point of shocked, and now I'm kind of like, I'm kind of proud that I took an anthropology class that would years later would allow me to recognize these non-human beings. Let's share a screen here if I can find it. There it is. Very good. So these are, of course, are just some of the petroglyphs that I've noted or come to my attention, especially in the Caribbean and Canada. I mean, obviously the tridactyl limbs everyone sees, but what really got me involved, honestly, was the remembrance of the tridactyl face, because the tridactyl face with its cordiform shape is what is really of interest. And as someone had said to me once, they said, I have researched the history of the heart shape, and it is likely due to some leaf of some plant that may have been a birth. What's it called? A birth repellent. I can't think of it. When you take birth control, yeah, birth repellent. That, I don't know if that'll go over well with the medical community. So it's this cordiform heart here. Let's see here. What do I mean by that? I do want to show you just real quick. Let's look at the face of dearest Louisa. Dearest Louisa. She has grown to be my favorite tridactyl. And I just put a little mark here. It wouldn't let me do it like live as much as I thought that would be cool. So what I mean by a cordiform shape is these two Humpty Humps right here. So it became apparent to me once that I realized that, well, we're looking at images of what people call mother goddesses, people that they call them fertility beings. They're part of ancestral worship. All of these things started to come to my attention, and I realized that the heart is much more than what we've learned to accept it as. And sure, I guess it could have been maybe related to a leaf, but then what my experience has told me with the symbolism is that it's never about the actual animal or the leaf, is it? The leaf or the animal ends up being a stand-in, a metaphorical stand-in for the ancestral beings, suggesting that the whole of humanity's religion is really not about worship at all. And it's just about remembering the ancestors and perhaps even, I don't know, being grateful maybe that that perhaps they birthed us and they gave us this many generations of humanity, perhaps. I'm trying to share a screen with you right here. Let's see, maybe if I move it to. Problem is when I share on the screen on my left, it tends to make it too small, as you can see. So just some of the examples of the Haitiki, the Caribbean mother goddess, a creator being in the Easter Island cave, and one of my favorites, the Syrian eye idols over here. So we'll get out of that. But let's pull up the next screen if it's there. So much to talk about. But the whole of my theory is essentially that these tridactyls are what our ancestors called, well, the ancestors. And yeah, they became worshipped as deities and gods and creators. So the Chinese graphemes, the Chinese symbols for words, sounds, has been super, super interesting. And again, the only reason I got there is that these petroglyphs in the Caribbean and the Americas were in association with serpentine symbolism, the horned serpent. They were found in conjunction with spirals, which, according to archaeologists, and I concur, is a water symbol ultimately. It seems to be a water symbol because it is indicating spawning. So when you see a pool of water, and if there are living things underneath it, you'll see it makes these concentric rings. And I suggest that has something to do with the tridactyl life cycle. So regardless what others may suggest of dimensions and portals and journeys and all these things, and I mean, I guess a journey could sort of be part of it. It is a life journey of these creatures as they go through a suspected metamorphosis. So serpentine images eventually brought me to the Naga beliefs, because the Nagas and the dragons are probably two of the most codified belief systems that have to do with serpentine imagery. Now, again, we can find all sorts of serpent imagery throughout our mythology. But we have to learn to get out of just European, Eurocentric, Judeo-Christian myopia of blinders of everything in the world, nothing happened outside of the Holy Land. We go out a little bit, we head out to Sumeria and Egypt. I saw someone today postulating, did the Turkish, the Çatalhöyük and cultures such as that, did they influence Egyptian culture? And I suggest there's maybe a mother culture before that in Asia. And look at some of these tridactyl. Let's go full screen for that, so you can really get in there. And I think too, I'm going to have to move this. So let's put it over there. How is everybody tonight? Feel free to drop a message. I will be giving away a tridactyl head. In fact, Lloyd, you're going to have to, if you're still listening, you're going to have to pick a number for tonight. That's a screen I'll have to pull up later. Entire screen or window? Let's do entire screen. And I closed it. Wow. Okay. I had something keyed up for us today, and we're back to the face of Louisa. Whew. Well, we wanted to talk about what did the ancients know. So if you're with me, lots of reptilian myths. The Dogon are famous in the alien ufology as having interaction, people describing amphibious hermaphroditic creatures. So we have to give credit where credit is due, if you will. And the Dogon people, wow, they seem to really, they nailed it. If you ask me, they really nailed it. So what do we see here with Miss Louisa? Well, the truth is, I wanted to find the Chinese symbols to show you, but I accidentally closed it like a noob, like a boomer. And then I get stuck sometimes where my mouse doesn't even know where I'm at. So please tell me where I'm at. What else is going on? We're talking about what did the ancients know. So the Chinese graphemes seem to indicate lots of things. So let's take a look at what I call dragon writing. I don't know if I can call it that, but let's hold on one second here. Give me a second. It seems like, again, I get a little discombobulated as soon as I'm off track of what I wanted to show you guys. So let's just go to the, I love just using my own memes in this modern day world of information. So I'm going to share that with you instead, assuming I don't accidentally close the screen. Boom, that's fun, actually. Just dragging stuff in. That kind of worked. Maybe I can get into this. So yeah, that's great. So he went. Someone suggesting, you can see there. It'd be amazing. And you know what, Lloyd? We're in a weird time where, it's really hard to get in touch with people. Like, imagine if the sky was falling and only Joe Rogan could hold the sky up with his mighty thighs. How do I get in touch with Joe Rogan for him to do that? So even with Praveen, I've made comments, and I think too, I don't know if I think people just assume I'm just a random theory, and I try to make the point that that is not the case, that I am just not your random theorist here. So it was Praveen, and let me put my self on the screen here. It was Praveen's video, actually, coincidentally, because I was watching a lot of his stuff, that captured the Yakshini, I think you can say it both ways. Yaksha also, which is the male, the supporter dwarf, and that supporter dwarf being in his video is where I saw the hyper realistic Therianthropic face of a Tridactyl with pronounced temporal bones and a little Therianthropic nose. So yeah, of course, it would be great to just get in touch with any of these people. Mostly my goal is to get the message out there. I think humanity deserves it. And yeah, I'm quite proud of some of these things. And I think it took someone, unfortunately, like me, who is either has the time to put into this, the creativity and the willingness to think outside the box. Some of our smartest people, I feel, are sometimes so locked into math, when sometimes I think it takes art to really make it so. So yeah, thank you. Constant companion theory. What's the basic concept? Is that we've never been alone, for one, but that there is evidence, such as, let's go to this meme here. So I suggest the ancient Chinese oracle scripts are telling the story of the Tridactyls. And I've said from the very beginning that these beings are not just random specimens. These are likely individuals. With why I prefer to, instead of calling the seated one by its name, I'd rather call it specimen number 4, because I feel like the name, and I hate to be like a fanboy, I hate to be a prude about it, but I'd rather say 004 or the seated God. There's a reason that this one is seated. There's a reason this one is missing its head. There's a reason that it appears as though the skull has a carved in archaic letter A in the center of its head. We got some other comments coming in. Gears is here today. Have you seen Tridactyl skull compared to a scarab beetle? I mean, I've postulated that myself. That did you have something new? Yeah, that was one of my things also. Tridactyl skull is absolutely. Is there another person putting out that theory, or is that your own? Because yeah, I totally think that. And I thought of other things too, that the scarab beetle, they say it's moving the earth and whatnot, I suppose. But even when the scarab beetle is holding the dung, it possesses the look of a Tridactyl from above, like a Tridactyl mother goddess giving birth, because it has the lower legs. Yeah, from the top. Yeah, I'm familiar. So yeah, so looking at the tridactyls, looking at a scarab beetle, the scarab resembles a tridactyl skull. In short, I'm 100% agreement there. And so this story here seems to depict specimen number 4's lame leg, which may have grown back. So that's another thing I'm putting out there that's probably not spoken of too often, is that I'm suggesting that, in no simple terms, that regeneration likely takes place. Not too shocking, right? If you're along for the proto-amphibian ride, and again, that's another wonderful thing that the constant companion theory has done. What I've done is able to weave in the biology and the archaeology without having to do much legwork. It's there's not much creative writing involved. The story is writing itself. The ancients told us, the Dogon told us, amphibian hermaphrodites. You know, when I hear things like that, it's like, oh, okay, these things are probably hermaphrodites and amphibians, or that the mother goddess gave birth on her own, virgin birth. That's parthenogenesis. Specimen number 4, I believe, is an archaic A carved into its head. And I believe that the ancient Chinese noted this story. And each of these have different words. For example, this one here in the center is to obey. I want to say this one here at the end is to shout. But look at that. Look at the way this Kui is how he pronounced this one sitting down. And again, I'm sorry, I had the pronunciation for that one. I can't remember what it means. It's not as exciting usually as you might think. Of course, a lot of these words have different meanings, and they even have different pronunciations going into Old Chinese. Look, getting into the tridactyls, I didn't think I would be studying ancient Chinese. But hey, I think it goes with the territory of, doing that archaeology type stuff. So are those not amazing? Just some random graphemes from China seeming to tell the story, which also suggests that specimen number 4, the seated god, could go by many other names. So here we go. We got someone jumping in again. We got Lloyd. Thanks for hanging out today, Lloyd. I appreciate all your comments, and I see your thumbs up and whatnot online. So I appreciate that. So yeah, regenerative biology, of course, right? It just makes sense. So when did we start realizing that they were amphibians? Again, probably because of mythology of metamorphosis, all the myths of coming out of the water, into the water, right? Of course, Northwest Indian, I say of course, like duh. The Northwest Indian folk, they have myths about the frog people. The frog people. They're telling you straight up, right? What do we got here from Gears? What about tridactyls being robots? Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to jump into all that. First of all, I don't have any real evidence of it. In fact, the evidence seems to be like, nah, these guys are in charge. Now, there might have been, they're tipping their hats to always the mother goddess. This is still the Trinity, guys. It's almost like so simple to me, I guess, because I've been studying it for 2 years. It's real simple. It's the mother goddess who's coming out of the Himalayas and Mega Lake Gobi area. Her son, theoretically, she backlogs her DNA. So the son is already a hybrid. So, she's probably 0%. And maybe that's what tridactyl.org and those guys, those researchers are holding out on us. Part of my whole origin story is, where is the researchers forward-facing face? And they do a great job, of course, with the -alienproject.com, but people want answers. So I've been here trying to find the answers. I thought I was just going to give you guys a cultural story over and over again. But the cultural story, just like these meme here, the cultural story and the biology is interwoven. The third being is the child. the celebrated child, depicted many times as a serpentine stick figure. So yeah, we're getting this sort of, I don't think they were automatons. I think they were in charge. If anything, there was an impression that they weren't in charge because perhaps the hybrids may have been bigger and more forward-facing. These hybrids were our early priest kings and our early shaman. I don't know if they just eventually grew 5 fingers and became part of us. I want to see if I can try to find that Chinese script again. So hold on 1 second. I think I had it under some research pages here. So yeah, again, I didn't expect Chinese, but I had to get into the Chinese. Why? Because of the dragon mythology. The dragon and the Naga are the same beings. In fact, I've been working on even the etymology of dragon, and I think it's like Drakan, which is like like wise Khan. Why? Because now we're not just sticking with even with Chinese, are we? Because we have to get in Tibetan language and the Sino-Tibetan early stages of a Proto-Chinese language, and the Bon religion, which of course has these Bon and Buddhist Tibetan religions have been super useful also because they kind of correspond with the Dogon myths of this mother goddess who mates with a monkey man and has children. That is their creation myth. So here's what else we got here. We got more comments from Gears. They're so efficient, like the missing digestive system. Yeah, the missing digestive system implies that either liquids or their skin is providing all they need. Hybridizations modify their morphologies as needed. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think we're going to wait and see if Suye and the others are 0% and 100% alien. 100% serpentine, 100% Naga, if you will. Traces of a 4th talon. I don't think so. The back of their feet seem pretty flat, which, you know, again, that's part of that. We have 3-fingered amphibians. Yeah, that was one of the first, of course, that was one of the first things that said, oh, these are amphibians, is because what else really has tridactylism? And most notably, salamanders and frogs. I think that was the beginning of my journey. And even when people wanted to still say reptilians, I always said, well, it's probably something, neither, both. Which I think that's what the science is showing us. Okay. Yeah, sorry. No, the X, it looks like, I think because my blue check of coolness is disappearing, because I don't know if I'm prepared to pay the $40 for that. You know, this restream costs money too. So there's that, and it's restreaming to other channels. So which means I will be able to restream back to Kick again, I suppose. We'll see. Unless you guys convince me otherwise, dear God, Ed, you're making a terrible decision. Give Musk your $40. So thanks for coming, Skywatch Signal. I wanted to share with you guys just this Chinese script. I don't know if everyone realizes just how insane it is. And let's see here. What I mean by that is it seems to be clearly a tridactyl world. So let's see. I had it geared up to some specific scripts, but who knows what happened. I think we can go back, that's all. So these are really fun, I find, because they're just real simple stick figures. Here we go. So just we can just start here even with the top one. And that looks like is that a K or a H? It looks like a hui. But it's 3 tridactyl-like limbs for herbs. I'm sure if we just go back a little bit. Oh. So here's another one here. Grass, leaves. It looks like it says ta'al. Sometimes the pronunciations can be different as well. Chinese is it really is super complicated. Not even going into the inflections. Okay, so right hand. This is another just early clue of what's going on. How much of Asian culture really is tridactyl culture? Got some more comments coming in from Lloyd. They are pure tridactylians that hybridize to give an opposable pinky, then 2, 4 fingers, then 5, then 6. Okay, Skywatch saying all good. And wouldn't miss it for the world. So we're trying to paint a picture here. What did the ancients know? Because that meme seems to show specimen number 4 sitting down. Specimen number 4 with a lame leg. Specimen number 4 is missing half of its hip. And that right leg is far more robust than the leg on the left. As though it was regenerated in perhaps a time of abundance. Specimen number 4 ate well that year. So why the tridactyls in China? Why Himalayas? Well, the Himalayas could have allowed these beings, and I call the mother there Dragon Queen X, just to be colorful. To the Chinese, she was the Queen Mother of the West. Her name many times is Jia or She is a sound associated with her, and I think that's important to note also. This Jia, She, Sh, morphemes, I call them because I suggest they mean the mother goddess. I suggest also it sounds as a simple theory here, but even our words like she or Isis, Asherah, Ishtar, etc., etc. So this morpheme of the mother goddess exists still. And even the shin in the Semitic language is a 3-pronged letter. And in the Aramaic, it is a heart-shaped letter, which again, I suggest the heart shape is the sign of the mother goddess. And I think if you even look at our own religions, our own even Judeo-Christian religions, it is telling the story of this Trinity once again. Here's an interesting one. So looks like this book here, they went and sort of, came up with their own hypotheses of what the older scripts looked like. So at first I dismissed my theory that the tridactyls, that their hands were depicted in Chinese writing because all the animals had the tridactyl hands. But then when you consider the Tao, and the Tao seems to give you the entire philosophy of these beings from the 1 came the 2, from the 2 came the 3, from the 3 came the many. So it's implying that these beings, this mother goddess, her consort son, and likely her consort grandson, the child, then gave us the 4th generation, which is many times depicted in the art. And I have to find specific examples for you. But I'll see an oceanic art, perhaps. You'll have, and this is like a totem pole, you'll have the 3 heads. And then the 4th head is the human. So I don't know if what that means in a time frame. So I don't want to spend too much more time, but if you've never seen these, they're super interesting. So here's one for ox or cow, which ox seems to travel with specimen 004, with me suggesting that the ox is, and let's go ahead and let's get out of this Chinese alphabet and let's talk about good and good and so if you guys are familiar with your mythology, Gilgamesh cuts off the leg of the bull of heaven and sends it to, who does he send it to? Who is she that he sends it to? I don't know what her name is. I don't want to say Tiamat, a goddess figure, the goddess that he shrugged off her advances. So the bull of heaven. And if you're following my Theo-Therianthropic Grapheme Hypothesis, that is that the images in the letters of the world, in the alphabets of the world, were influenced by these beings. So even our letter A, I remember I suggest that the skull of specimen number 4 has an archaic A carved into it. And it's right side up then, but if you flip it upside down, this skull, you have something closer to our modern A. This led me to find out, well, what was the name for ox in other languages? And in Egypt, you could also call an ox a ka. In ancient Sumer, it was a good. And it's Semitic, so we can choose whatever vowel we want to put in there. Gad, Gid, good, God. Let's take a look at that. We're going to look at, we got Sky showing us some cool love there. We're just going to pull up good and some of these letters from past post of mine on Good Old X. And if you guys like to interact with me, I would suggest Reddit. I do use Facebook. Oh, good. Look, it's on this same screen here. Very good. All right. So we were just looking at this. How's everybody doing? We're going to be giving away a Tridactyl skull tonight. So I see we've got at least 3 people on. You guys each will get an extra percentage, 1% chance to win a skull. Of course, we are crossing out numbers. So we started with 100 numbers. And we'll see who wins tonight. We gave our last skull away last week to Mr. Velasco, our special guest. Please watch that show. He's very knowledgeable about the Peruvian mythology. And it's funny, I kind of did stay away from the Peruvian mythology because I figured somebody would have it covered. And I think he was that somebody. All right, we're going to share a screen here. Just the 2 of us. Oh, well, there you go. There's our archaic letter A. True, yeah. Definitely hit the like button. I'm not a big social media guy. I mean, I'm not a noob with social media. But again, the message to me, I got to get this message out there. I think some of this stuff is super, super cool. As people say, it tracks, or as other people say, I have the receipts. I try not to be speculative, but at the same time, I also don't want to beat around the bush, and I don't have to be one of these guys who have to be super conservative. I'd rather put as much information out there. And like a good teacher, if you're a good student, you can go do the research. So here's our skull, which coincidentally, the researchers numbered number 4. Now, I suggested that this skull, I'm like, oh, that's the skull that belongs to the... Now, there's other skulls, by the way, that are decapitated. But this one, because it had the carving, because it had the pronounced cranial ridges, also which I think could make a 3-prong symbol, I believe. This is the... While the other heads, like Josephine's head, really just has very subtle ridges. This one has some pronounced ridges and perhaps even something like a third ridge in that center there. So I knew from the get-go, I know, that it was Victoria's head. But it was strange that they already had the same numbers. So did the researchers know? Did the researchers sample this skull? Is this skull several thousands of years old? Anyway, that's one form of an A. And here is your symbol for good. And if you're vaguely familiar with some of the Sumerian, you'll note it from your cuneiform. It's usually shown on its side. I put it upright. That triangle form too is just a nice, easy way to make a heart shape. I suggest is it Aries in the sky, the constellation? Here we go. I'm going to hit this thing here. I see how I have to reset my mouse. I have to leave my screen. Wow. So, again, not to beat around the bush, but I suggest that specimen number 4 is the most important individual cadaver in the history of humanity. The Phoenician letter B is likely related to bite, beta, of course, likely related to Tibet. That's BET right there also. I know it seems like folk etymology, but really what I'm seeing is that there's a lot more overlap in language than I feel that perhaps Eurocentric researchers want to admit. I don't think Eurocentric researchers on any level want to admit the importance of China. Are we seeing the Denisovans and the Neanderthals coming out of Eurasia, but we're also seeing chickens, pigs, dogs, the printing press, the compass, silk, paper, restaurants? Yep. We got some serious come to mama talks coming, I think. And that mama is Dragon Queen X, hailing from the Himalayan plateau. I want to think they call her Sinma Fo in the Bon religion. I'm not sure. She's an ogress. Look up the ogress that reproduces and makes mankind with a monkey god. Wow. I think we should start thinking about the numbers, and I want to catch people before they disappear. So let's take a look at the numbers. I'm going to put it on the screen to share. I like this. I could get into this habit of just sliding the screen over. Whatever I want to share, I just slide over. This could work. This could work. I'm feeling it. Okay, so let's start with Lloyd. If you're still listening, Lloyd, can you go ahead and choose a new number, followed by Gears, followed by Sky. Yeah, restaurants came from Asia. I think capitalism, merchandising came from Asia. So yeah, anybody listening out there? Uh-oh. See, I try to get them while they're here so I can get their numbers in. Oh, there we go. Lloyd, 36. I see you. Okay. Lloyd. Awesome. Gears got 2. Gears is blocking out some numbers. Sky? And I think Sky, I actually owe you a number 2. I owe you a number 2. No. I owe you a number from I think some past promotion here. I don't think you're on here, Sky. So Sky, you may have to pick 2, I think, today. Hey, chopsticks. You know, there's reports of the dactyls and related crab people in Greece using their fingers like tongs. A lot of the skeptics are like, how are they going to use their fingers? Well, first of all, they have an extra phalange on them, so they could do that, and they're likely hydrostatic limbs. Yes, you don't get a number 2. Gear's got my number 2. So Skywatch, you can pick 2 numbers on that list here for a chance to win today. While you guys are doing that, I'll pull up my dice roller. Looks like dice roller is up. Yep. Oh, we got Tyler there. Hello, Tyler. Yeah, the Carnicos. They're part of these. There's various groups of these supportive beings that are metallurgists and live on islands and developed. It's almost like implying that I feel like humanity developed from these beings all over the place. Okay, so let's see. Well, you know what? 69 was already called once. I'm not using the numbers again. So let me put you down for 27, Sky. Sky watch. How about another number besides 69, Sky? Perhaps a 68. Yeah, the dactyls, Tyler, is one broader group. 68. Okay. Tyler, since you are there still, you can choose a number. So I had thought originally the artist had done a great job painting the heads gray, but it turns out that was just the molding he used. So my mold was white. So, and I'm not really much of a painter, nor I'm really into it completely. So you get to paint it yourself or leave it white. All right. I think unless anyone's going to drop a number in here, let's do it. You guys ready? Woo! All right, here comes the roll. Oh, wait, Tyler's in there with 6. There he is. Let's put him in first. Let's make it official. Now I can't say the screen. There it is. Tyler. Awesome. Thank you for the comment. Let's go ahead and show Tyler's groovy comment. I remember the episode of South Park with the crab people. Classic. I just joined, so I'm getting caught up in here. I'm enjoying the stream. Yeah, who knows? Maybe noodles were perfect for being digested through this tiny mouth that they suggest could only be good for liquids. And perhaps their use of their fingers like tongs inspired chopsticks, which if you ever see what people can do with chopsticks, they can do a lot. All right, back to our roll. And I, of course, I'm using Roll20, which is a fun little RPG site if you ever play online. And let me reset my mouse to make it do what I want. And it's being argumentative. There we go. All right, this is it for real. We're coming in hot. 005. Oh, look at that. It's like shooting into a crowd. Nobody gets hit. That's a terrible metaphor, by the way. Don't use that one. Too much D&D. Isn't that interesting? Wow. There's no winner this week, but I will be mailing out David Velasco, the author of Message to Nazca, who was our guest last week. Again, what we covered is the theory that the alphabets of the world, that the symbolic language of humanity is the result of contact with these beings who are likely not aliens, but are likely ancestors. So that is all I have to say. I am going to leave it up to you guys. If you have anything else you'd like to ask me, that's cool. This is I'll leave us with some groovy Louisa shots. You can also share some stuff here. Here we go. David was awesome. That was a great show. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of guests on. Cosmic was fun. So, yeah, he was a good guest. Trying to get Gonzalo on. You know, him and I did a Spaces once, so maybe he'll do another Spaces again. So let's just take a good look at Louisa. Let's play a little music while we do that. This is disclosure. We were always told in school that we evolved from some amphibian that climbed out of some primeval muck. Well, here they are. Metal implants of the egg bearers. Those to hold magnetic breasts, perhaps, to feed primate children. Live long and prosper. We were never alone. See you guys next week, and see you in the funny pages that is social media.